Okay, I think I'm live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Darian Talk to UTSA. Um, it's bye week time, so typically during the bye weeks, I like to do a show that's predicated around what we've seen over the last the first few games, and this one we're very close to mid-season. With we already have played 5 games, so this is sort of your mid-season recap and sort of an opportunity for us to assess what's going on now. Um, this one probably won't be as long because I don't expect a huge crowd, considering that we don't have a game this week. And I think a lot of folks are probably just tired of all the discourse around UTSA, considering how, last week was very tough. And then on Twitter, it was a very, very toxic environment because the fan base seemed divided on a particular issue that we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, there's 3 main things that I wanted to really chat through. I'm going to go through whatever questions and whatever comments we have. So for those of you who are in the chat today and with me live, go ahead and drop your comments and questions in ASAP because that'll sort of drive how long I'll do the show today. But the main 3 things I want to cover. Number one, I just think in general, we have to, whenever we look at, and it's okay to change, right? I think a lot of us coming into the season, our expectation, my expectations were surely high. I was thinking 10 games and things like that. After, I feel like I ate the cheese too, just thinking about, you got to go out there and earn it each and every time. And I think some of the excitement around the roster that UTSA put together coming into this season led me to even say, hey, we're going to win 10 games and that sort of thing. But I've also been saying, which is sort of contradictory to that point, was, we can have all that talent, but how are we going to put it together? That's going to be the most important piece to, sort of that discussion, right? And we hadn't been able to put it together well. So one of the major topics I want to get into with you guys today is whenever we look at the rest of the regular season games, what do we have? About 7 games left. We probably should reset what our expectations are and look at this as now the new season and say, okay, now based on what we've seen through these first 5 games, how do we forecast that across these next 7 games, right? So I'm going to get into that. I'm also going to chat a little bit about, obviously what went on and what I think went wrong in those first 5, and some of the things I think we can do to sort of change our fate going into some of these games where we have some opponents that we should beat. Rice is a team. I'm not going to get too deep into what Rice does because I'm going to save that for next week's pod. But Rice is a team that I think we should beat even at current state. But I think there's some changes that need to be made. So we'll discuss some of those as well. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think in the chat about about what's, I guess, what you guys think that we should do. So yeah, I'm sure some of the questions will lead me into some of the stuff. But one thing I will address, I think, before I get into some of those things more so about the football, is a lot of the stuff that we've seen on Twitter over the last few days, so on and so forth. And I think obviously people are going to have different reactions to, people making comments and making thoughts and giving their opinions and things like this. My lesson or not my lesson, but my thoughts on that are as follows. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Number one, if somebody likes one quarterback and somebody doesn't like the other, I think it's that type of thing happens. But and I think there can be some healthy discourse as to why someone prefers someone else. But I feel like there's a piece, or there's a time where some of that discourse can be relatively divisive, and I think we got to be careful about that. I think number 2, I'll talk about my Twitter in general, is folks, I'll just be honest. I don't listen to a lot of the other podcasts out there very much. I've told you guys 1,000 reasons why, but I'm going to tell it like it is, regardless of the situation. Some people like that, some people don't. That's not going to deter me from stating my opinion, right? So I do that on my show. I'm going to continue to do that on my show, and there's no. This is not me trying to I don't really have an agenda other than I love watching UTSA football. I love the school. I want the school to be successful, and I want to do whatever I can to bring notoriety to it and to just talk about talk about the game the game that I love and things like that. So that's sort of what it is. I think there were some people were sending me stuff that people were alluding to me having some sort of agenda and like I do personal attacks and like yeah, I don't. I genuinely don't. I don't think me saying, "Hey, I think we should change the quarterback or get one quarterback out and put another one in" is a personal attack. It's just my opinion, right? So anyway, I just want to address that in general. Like, I don't think we need to be policing folks on how to fan. Everybody fans in their own way, and we kind of go from there. You accept the good with the bad and go forward, right? As long as there's nothing that's too malicious, it's all good. It's all fine. At the end of the day, we're all pushing toward the same goal and trying to support the runner. So anyway, just wanted to address that off the muscle. I'm sure there'll be questions about it. But that was one thing that I'm just like, and I typically don't get caught up in the banter. So apparently, like UTSA toxic Twitter is a thing that happens every football season, and for whatever reason, I miss it. And I'm seeing it a lot more than I have in recent years. So yeah, very interesting, interesting waters to swim through. But overall, I guess I'll get to some of these questions before I get into sort of recapping the first game, recapping the what I forecast as we go into the last seven here. Mike says, "What is more important? What is more important? Winning enough games to be bowl eligible, or getting our younger players time? We need to see what we have and what we need to make a legit run next season for conference." So, honestly, man, I think what's more important right now is what can you salvage from this season. We're 2-3, so the season is not over. Of course we're upset. Of course, we started 2-3 before in the trailer. Like, of course we're upset. Of course, people are disappointed at the start of the season, but it's not over. I think, honestly, I'll say this: this is a perfect time for a bye week for UTSA. And one of the reasons I say the season isn't over is because that East Carolina game was very winnable. Like, we shot ourselves. We are the reason we lost that game. UTSA is the reason we lost that game. All respect to East Carolina, but like I still feel, as bad as we played offensively, I still feel like we were the better team. I just do. I just think defensively, some of the plays that we made, some of the things we did defensively is great, but was great. And I think they did enough to leave us in the game. But at the end of the day, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot by, having 5 false start penalties and 12 penalties overall for 79 yards and giving up first downs due to penalty and putting our offense in poor situations because of penalties and things like that. So we really shot ourselves in the foot. I think if we tweak a couple of things, I don't think we're far off because we do have a defense that I think can be great. And I think they're getting better with time. It's also good to see, when I went back and looked at a lot of the games, it's also good to see that the offensive line has improved every single game. I know a lot of folks have been giving them crap on Twitter about what their performance has been, but guys, I'm telling you, go back and watch the tape. The offensive line, especially, in my opinion, you can say they had a really good game against East Carolina. Like, no joke. No joke. You can say they had a really good game against East Carolina, in my opinion, like, especially when you go back and watch the tape. The offensive line has done well. So anyway, if you got a good if your defensive unit can keep you in the games and your offensive line is starting to create lanes for the running backs and also starting to pass protect for the quarterback, we just need our skill players to execute. If our skill players execute, we'll be in money. And that's mostly right now the quarterback and the receivers. If our quarterback and the receivers execute, not drop passes, hit the open guys when you need to hit the open guys. Don't miss throws. Don't get rattled. Don't get hurried and things like that, and show some composure. I do think there's a way back in this season. I do think we could win four of our next. So we'll need to win four out of these 7 games to be bowl eligible. I do think that's possible, but it's going to take us actually doing it right. And yeah, I think JT Clark coming back full time is going to be really, really helpful. And hopefully, whoever is I mean, I'm sure McCown will be the quarterback. Hopefully, he can deliver some passes. Hopefully the bye week relieves some pressure, and then hopefully Rice. Like I said, we should beat Rice in my opinion. Not going to get into what they do and what we should do against them too much. Like I said, saving that for next week. But I think that there's a way back in this season. I'll say that. Mike says, I still believe in this team. There seems to be something missing. Only those who are in the locker room know what they may be. Yeah, so there is something missing. And I'm telling you, offensively, I think it's pretty clear they are missing. I don't know if they have leaders in that on the offensive side of the ball. Like that's something that only they know, right? But they are missing a skill position threat that the defense has to account for. Hopefully, JT Clark can bring that to the team. When you look at like for example, we've had some guys who stood out. Like Willem McCoy has the most receiving yards on the team. I think he's at like 306, right? But is he going to pull up any trees and force teams to game plan around what he's doing? Although he's made some really, really big plays for the team, he's also had some really crucial drops. So teams are going to look at that and say, you know what? We just gotta be physical with this guy. He might drop the ball and things like that. And they'll challenge their corners to sort of take that on, right? And we got to punish them for that. And in my opinion, whenever you have a star on the offense that a defense has to plan for, that right there starts the defense off at a disadvantage because they have to send extra bodies to account for one guy, and they can't balance it across the scheme, right? So, like for example, like if you have a 3-by-1 backside, that's basically trips 3 receivers on one side and 1 receiver on the backside, and that backside receiver is JT Clark, and they have to cheat a safety over over to his side so you can have basically a 2-on-1. Guess what that does for the other 3 receivers? Now all those guys are singled up, right? You're not going to be able to account for those guys in the same way that you could if you didn't, the safety can't roll to the middle of the field to help out with those 3 receivers. He has to stay occupied with that 1 receiver because that guy's a threat. And what that does is that opens up opportunities for our guys to win one-on-ones. That's why we were so lethal with Zachary Franklin, JT Clark, and Joshua Cephas, because you had 3 guys that were threats and they were going to win their one-on-ones. And at that point, our quarterback can pick and choose whoever he wants to go to because they're probably going to be open. We don't have that right now. And we also don't have a Sincere McCormick type running back in the backfield right now, although Brandon High is looking very good. We don't have that type of threat in the backfield that's going to make safeties have to cheat up now. So anyway, that to me is what we're missing offensively, because those things, in my opinion, will help McCown out and help the entire team out. But until we get that, we're going to struggle offensively, and we're going to have to beat these teams with scheme. And I don't know if we're good enough to do that right now. In my opinion, a change at the OC has to happen, or coach runs the risk of losing the team in future commits. Yeah, the OC thing is an issue. The OC thing is an issue, but I always do this. Every time I go back and watch the film, I don't feel as frustrated at the OC as I was like in game. Were there questionable calls and like mistakes where I'm just like, how or why are we always in this situation? Yes. But to be fair to the OC, there was some big pivotal plays and key plays that was important to the success of the game itself that our players did not execute. That's just the facts. That's just a fact. This is 3rd down. We missed a throw. 4th. I mean, we had those drops at the end of the game that really, really hurt us. Can't be mad at the OC for those. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I mean, it's a combination of lack of execution, um, that's hurting us, and I just think one of the things about our offense is it doesn't really evolve, hasn't evolved very much, and it looks like it's still vanilla. But and I think a lot of that has to do is because we're not able to execute on some of the very, very simple plays that the guys drawing up. So um I don't know how they're gonna solve this problem. I don't, you know, I it's very unlikely that there's gonna be a change at OC. Not in the middle of the season anyway. Um, I don't think Trailer's that kind of guy. But yeah, we'll just have to see. Roman says he agrees with Mike there on the change at OC. We'll see. Let's see. I think the team is very talented and we are not playing to our potential, especially in offense. Yeah, I think it shows that the team has a lot of talent. I think that much is obvious, but I do think offensively it's hard for us to see that talent. Number one, because I think we're a little heavy on the rotations, and I do think it does impact guys being able to get in rhythm. And then I don't know what the issue is on the lack of execution from our skilled players and things like that. Like we got to be able to pass and catch. Um, I don't know what that situation is about, but we got to get it solved. We got to get it solved, or it's going to be a really, really ugly year for the runners. Josh said, "Can you comment on Frank Harris's comment defending the OC?" Yeah, I seen that comment. Trust me, that comment got sent to me quite a bit. Yeah, it goes back to the same thing. It's like you got to think about it from his perspective. Like, and I get it. Like some of the folks who were sending me messages and saying stuff, like I can just tell people didn't like some of my comments over the weekend. And it is what it is. I'm not, it is what it is. In regards to his comments defending the OC, you gotta understand a lot. Like it does hit a little different when you've recently been in that locker room. You've recently been in the locker room being teammates with the guys who are currently playing. You have a great relationship with this guy, because you got to understand, like, he knows the man itself, right? Like he knows the guy itself. So you know if somebody's out there criticizing, you know, the offensive coordinator, people are going to take that personal. If you just automatically take it personal because you have a personal connection with the person that is being criticized and being talked about, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to have somebody that you're close with and that you care about being ridiculed online because someone does not like the way they're performing at their job. So I understand it from his perspective, and that's fair. Those are valid feelings, and he's entitled to, say whatever he wants on that. And I think everyone should welcome it. At the end of the day, though, my take on it is I don't think the OC has been very good. I do think we're like football, regardless of how people want to spin it. Football is a very public, like you are criticized, or you are criticized is the wrong word. You are evaluated by your fans. You are evaluated by your supporters, right? More than like for example, for folks who have day jobs that go into a corporate office, like your performance is evaluated mostly by your manager and maybe by some of your peers. It's a small group of folks, and it's not public, right? Like, none of our jobs is in a public eye. We're not at our desk on the computers typing in front of thousands of people like these guys are playing football and coaching football. And with that, you got to understand what comes with that. And that's going to come with, a evaluation from the public, an evaluation from the fans. And you're not always going to like that. And that's something that folks have to build a callus for, because that's just part of the game. It's part of the game. Like, um people can get sensitive around that stuff 100%. So yeah, I don't blame him for coming out, and he has a large voice in San Antonio and has a lot of influence, and he wants to back his coach and back his quarterback and that sort of thing. More power to him. Do you think we'll be able to keep all of the talent on defense for next year if we finish 6-6, 7-5? Yeah, I do. If we manage to go 6-6 and 7-5, I think a lot of the guys will return, and I think it's an easier sell for Coach Traylor to say, you know what? Listen, we just lost a lot of veteran guys. We really lost that nucleus, and we had some bumps in the road to, re-strengthen the nucleus that we had, right? And to me, if we're able to go 6-6 or 7-5, that will mean that something within this next 7 games is going to pretty much change drastically for us to be able to get to that point. And that would also mean that we're ending the season with momentum. And I think that's something that can be sold. And that's also something that can be sold to the fan base to say, hey, we gave it our all. We were in a transitionary period from a talent standpoint. And that means growing pains are going to be something that we have to expect. Now going into next season, we're going to address some of the issues we had. We're still going to have some of those guys who are in that locker room who are younger, who are going to have another year of experience under their belt, and they're going to be able to come back, reload, and we'll be better next year. I think it'll be more difficult to keep folks if we win, if we go like 4-8, or 5-7. I think then you have a very, very different discussion. But if we end up 6-6 or 7-5, I think there's a story to tell that folks can get behind. Leading up to the season, there was this consistent theme about leaders not being vocal leaders. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like I said, it is very tough to see from a TV screen. It's very tough to see from a TV screen if they have vocal leaders and things like that. I mean, sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it isn't. I would guess that they don't, because I just feel like some of the mistakes that we're making seem to be very, I don't know, just things that wouldn't happen with teams with really big, prominent leaders. Not as consistent as they are happening, right? I think we have 3 games this year that was it 4, 3 or 4 games this year where we're 10 plus on the penalty side. That's insane. Can't happen, right? So, yeah, I think it takes time for that though, right? Like a lot of these guys have been used to the same leaders, for years, and now that those guys are gone, who's going to step up and do that? Those are not easy shoes to fill. And also a lot of that comes with who is the GoDaddy week in and week out. And right now we haven't had a consistent GoDaddy on the offensive side of the ball that has balled out every single game. Right. So it's hard. It's a little bit more difficult for guys to lead from a position of not playing well or not playing at all. Cody says, does UTSA qualify for a bowl? I fear players will leave after this season and we'll have to rely on the transfer portal, which is already tough for a school like UTSA. Great question. And this will lead me into some of my discussion later on. I see it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough. I think 6-6 is very possible, but even that's asking a lot. That's asking for, like, there's some favorable games on our schedule, right? But that would mean that we can't play down to our competition. That would mean that we've cleaned up some of our mistakes. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. So you look at games like Army, at their house, based on the way the team looks today, I'm not very confident in that, right? You look at a team like a Memphis, and what they've been able to do this season. Yeah, I'm not confident of them coming into the dome. Those are just going to be games that we're going to have to keep our head on a swivel for. And I look at North Texas also. Like North Texas, if they can't do anything, they're putting up big numbers. They're putting up big points. They scored 52 against Tulsa, 44 against Wyoming. They even put up 21 against Texas Tech. 35 against SFA and 52 against South Alabama. We're not putting up numbers like that. So that's a worrisome game too. That right there would be 3 games that I'm looking at, and I'm a little worried about off the muscle because I'm like, yeah, well, that will put us. So that will mean we need to finish. We will need to certainly win at Rice. We'll need to certainly win against FAU, which I don't know. I don't think that's going to be an easy game either. To be honest, but they're coming into the dome, so we'll see what that looks like. So yeah, we got a work cut out for us. So are we going to make it to a bowl? I don't know. It's going to be very, very close. Very, very close. We'll just have to see. Hopefully things change and we start looking a little better. If we are able to do that and we are able to execute a little bit better in our skill positions offensively, I think it's possible, but it's going to be tough. Going back to this, we'll probably have to win a game that we're, a game or maybe even two that we're probably not expected to win based on what we've shown in these first 5 games, which hasn't been great football. Kathy says, I was watching another podcast yesterday and I think they mayday. Kathy, if you could comment again and clarify that one, that would be helpful. I think they mayday. I'm not tracking. Daniel says, install Eddie Lee Marburger. We will never know if he can unite the offense and have some kind of creativity. He will throw the long ball and keep the defense guessing. Put him in, coach. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad option. Like, here's the thing, and I've been thinking a lot about this because I was just thinking about my last podcast, and I was just like, yeah, I'd rather see somebody else. I do think I've seen enough from McCown, and here's what I bet the coaches are dealing with and going back and forth with on the Italy Marburger thing. Although, and I went back and watched all the games again just to kind of just reevaluate things again. The thing about Eddie is he's certainly not scared to throw the football. There's no hesitation in what he does, and he can be accurate when he has time. Like, if he has time, he can be accurate. The scary part though is my man will throw that ball to the other team. So it's kind of feast or famine with him, It's like, I don't know. I think there's an even killedness that comes with McCown that's not at a very high level. But I think I think McCown can manage through a game and get us. I honestly don't know. I can't say that because we've scored 28 points is the most points we scored this year, and that was against Kennesaw State, who is, I mean, listen, they're technically an FBS team, but that was their first FBS, like being a part of an FBS conference. So essentially, we played an FCS roster against that team, and I don't know. I honestly don't know what to do with the quarterback position. If I'm being completely honest, no idea. At this point, coaches, I don't know. At this point, just gotta hope the coaches, gotta trust the coaches know best, and I'm sure they do. Robert Dedrick says the offensive line not gelling, and the secondary are the main issue. ECU wide receivers got over the top. If the quarterback could have made throws, the quarterback is the major problem. Like I said before, I think the pass blocking, and I see your next comment here. You said the pass blocking wasn't great. ECU got pressure on McCown. Listen, I don't think they've done anything great, but I am telling you they've improved every game, and I think that they did good enough for us to be able to we had enough time. Also, listen, some of that pressure that they got, like, and I'll repeat this, and I said this last week, said this over the weekend. Just because the defensive line gets pressure, that does not mean a failure on the offensive line. There's a lot of times we just sat back and patted the ball forever, and then defensive linemen got through, and then we became under pressure. That's not on the offensive line. That's on the quarterback. That's on the quarterback, and the receivers getting open. There was a lot more of that this past game against ECU than in games past where they were just cutting people loose, and by the time he snapped the ball, he was on his back. That really wasn't the case a lot in the last game, unless I'm missing something. Um, but my thing is they're doing better. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not saying they're perfect, but the offensive line, the pass blocking and run blocking has been better than it was every single game. Every single game, they're getting a little better, a little better, a little better, a little better. I can live with that. I can live with that. Scotty says we're still technically in the hunt for a conference championship berth. Navy and Army will drop games. We control our destiny with North Texas and Memphis. A half conference loss team likely in the ship, or 1 or 2 conference loss team likely in the ship. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the game is not over. It's not, or not the game. Yeah, it's not over. The season's not over. I'm glad we have a bye week now, so we have some time to work on cleaning some of this stuff up. But I think we'll get a really good indication of what that cleanup job is going to look like against Rice, because it's a team we should beat, and we need to come. That needs to be a statement game. I like that. One of the things coming out of Coach Traylor's interviews is, he doesn't like to put a must win on some games. So basically, he said this Rice game is a must win. Period. If we were to lose that game against Rice, things would get really, 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 really bad. But yeah, get to your point. It's not over. It's not over till the fat lady sings. Frank says we have more to lose if we keep Burke and if we keep Burke at OC. Not only can we lose player, but maybe even just Lope, or Lope, whichever it is. I can even see Traylor himself leave. Listen, the trailer leaving thing, I don't even want to speak that into existence, but yeah, I can see that happening too. And it's mostly because I feel like people have been like, I've seen a lot over this past week too, is they've been basically saying, hey, stop complaining about NIL and fix this team. And I'm like, guys, we got to be careful with that, because the NIL situation has a lot to do with where we are right now. He clearly wanted to get a quarterback. He did bring a quarterback in from the portal. And some of the guys that he want, like for example, we brought in Diego Pavia from, I think he was the New Mexico State or New Mexico Lobo. No, he was the New Mexico Lobos quarterback, who was a great quarterback for them. And we brought him in brought him to UTSA and tried to bring him in. And I think one of the things was like, I just don't think we could afford him. But he's the starting quarterback for Vanderbilt right now, and he's doing just fine. I look at that guy and I'm like, if that guy would have been our quarterback, if we had the money to pay for that guy, our season will look a lot different, a whole lot different. Because that guy can run it and throw it, and I think he's the type of profile that suits what Traylor wants to do on offense. So yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's a multi-layered problem. Like the OC is one thing. I know people are upset with them. It's a multi-layered problem now. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Frank says, what's the matter with what's the matter with the penalties? How are those fixed? Honestly, bro, a lot of that comes down to just being disciplined. And honestly, I don't know, and I'm sure Traylor is doing this, but like, depending on the penalty you got, we got punished for those. Like legit. Depending on the circumstance, like if it's false starts, our linemen were running, after and I think the entire line was running, not just the individuals. The entire line was punished back in the day. I just know, even for like us at corners, depending on the type of pass interference call we got, or holding call or something we got defensively, we could get punished too, depending on the circumstance, depending on the situation. So I just think there should be some extra cardio being done during this bye week to compensate for those and make sure that those don't happen. But that's really it, because a lot of them, some of the ones like that happens during the play, and like some of the pass interference calls, which some of them are not great calls in the first place, and honestly, to a degree, some of the face masks, even though we have way more than we should, some of those are just like in the play. Even some of the holding calls, honestly, like some of those are just like in the field of play. But what you can have is 5 times we false start because those are just brain farts at that point. That can't happen. That can't happen. Some of the things that happened in the course of play, that's just going to happen. But yeah. Kathy says, I don't follow other teams. We seem to not do well the first few games every year, then and now. Should we be looking at how the spring training is run? Other teams win, obviously. Yeah, I think a lot of that is because we typically have a very difficult um non-conference schedule. So we're playing a big team half the time. Texas A&M's, you know, some of these big, we play Baylor and some of these bigger Power Five schools that we like to have on our calendar. We do that for recruiting purposes, number one. So that's probably why. And yeah, we do historically get off the slow starts um as a result. And yeah, I do think it's a fair thing to call out that this can't always happen, right? Um, because it's not great. We played Tennessee last year. That's a tough one. Um, so anyway, I think we do stumble out the blocks. We schedule ourselves pretty hard in the non-conference play. But yeah, maybe something in spring training needs to run. I tell you this, we are we were a lot less or we were a lot more disorganized than I expected us to be coming into this season though. Even with the new quarterback and new offensive personnel, I just thought we were a lot more disorganized than I'd expect from a trailer team. So that's what coaches will do though. They'll go back to the drawing board, reevaluate what they did last year, and tweak that, and hopefully ensure that they do their due diligence. And not saying that they didn't this time, but like correct whatever things that they thought they could do better coming into this season. Josh says the rotation at running back would be okay if we ran a two-back offense. Also, I think Rice ELM should get a full shot to see how he leads the offense. I'm not mad at both of those sentences there. Um, the rotation, yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think we should do more two back because I think our running backs are very, very dangerous. And I wish we would. I know we're not going to go back and they're not going to install that this week, but I would like to see us get our linemen downhill, get into an I formation and run those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? Why not? It worked for us years ago. Um, Kathy says it's a transitional year and NIL is a challenge for us. But do you think we can get a better quarterback? What happened to the incomings? Um, the NIL is gonna decide if we can get a better quarterback out of the transfer portal. Period. So if we don't have a significant increase in NIL or they don't reallocate their NIL budget, they got other guys they have to pay as well. But I think the NIL budget, I'll tell you this for Ansira and you know Pat Klein's and what's the other guy that hosted the banquet with April? I forget his name. The other big, what is it, City Fans or something like that? Yeah, they gotta get together and um have a designated quarterback fund. I'm not even joking. Like, hey, if I'm trailer, that's what I'm asking for. Yo, let's get like a pool of money and dedicate it to getting a quarterback in. If we have enough money that's going directly to that, that's honestly what we should do. We should, as a fan base, organize and say, hey, right now, from here on out, all of our donations are going to be going to a particular position, just so they can have it if they want to use it. Maybe McCown or ELM or whoever the quarterback is, somebody we have on our roster may, start at Rice and take off and become a star, and play super super well, right? I think what I'll say, that'd be great if that happens, but if it doesn't happen, then like, yeah, we should think about how we reallocate money, and probably allocate a lot of that money to their quarterback position. Um, Robert says Coach Traylor is not saying anything about his offensive coordinator. Very frustrating. No, he's not going to call out his offense. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. He's not that type of guy. Number one, and number two, those coaches, man, they like that would be equivalent to McCown calling out McEwen, or McCown doing an interview and calling out McCoy. You know, like you don't do that. You see that type of stuff in the NFL, which is interesting, but that's why it's always big news, because like it's kind of a you don't call your brother out publicly. But I'm sure he's holding him accountable. I'm sure he's holding him accountable. Hey, sorry that Mayday post was an error. I tried to delete it. All good. Hey, Buddy O says seeing Kennesaw State lost to an FCS school on Saturday was salt in the wound after ECU. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, it's weird, right? Because you can make the case that we hadn't beat an FCS school this season, or FBS school this season. Technically, Kennesaw State counts, but to this point, to the point of this discussion here, they're playing with the FCS roster. That much is clear. We've seen that whenever we played them. Like they don't have an FBS roster. Let's just call a spade a spade. But it just shows you where we are, to be honest, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Definitely. But like I said, like we played East Carolina, who's supposed to be a respectable team, but a really good defense. And like I said, we should have won that game. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed thinking about it. Like I still feel like our defense gave us ample opportunities to win the game or take the lead at the very least, and we weren't able to do it. David says, shout out to my man David. He said, did you notice Gilkey was on scout team defense? Should we read anything into that, or does that usually happen? Yeah, that usually happens. If you're far down on the depth chart, I told this story 1,000 times about Dalton Stern, who set records and was a great quarterback for us. Dalton Stern was on scout team defense as well. And he used to be one of the guys who was running routes for us, giving us looks. He was like, he'll put on the red jersey and say, I'm number 81 on the opposing team. I'm going to run the routes he runs. I'm going to imitate him. He would do that for us. He'd go from Bennett. He'd come over to my side. He'd go to, Crosby's side. He'd go to everybody's side and he'd give us looks. So yeah, I wouldn't think too much into it. It's just what for him it's going to be in the summers and springs. He's going to really have to work on his game and develop his body. And if coach is still giving him a scholarship and still bringing him through, he'll get an opportunity at some point to prove himself. But he's going to have to stick with it, stay disciplined, and continue to progress his skills. And he'll get an opportunity at some point. It's Rap says, didn't we have the $2 million to use anyway? And he wanted looking for a quarterback. I don't know, man. I don't know how they stretch that around, right? Like I don't know how they disperse some of that around. I think I'm sure we got a very big discount on McCown on NIL money, considering who his father is. So maybe we got that budget, and we probably came into the season or was thinking about that next season with McCown being a starting quarterback, and you allocated that money to some of the other players and some of the other causes, maybe some to staff and all this type of stuff. Right. So, yeah, whatever, I'll tell you this, whatever budget he has this year, that priority should be pretty clear. Diego Pavia went to Vandy to be with his old coach. Also, he is a straight dog. He is a multi-time state wrestling champion. Yeah, he's a good player. He's a very good player. I like the QZs. The QZs. I might be tripping on that one. Mike says, thank you for providing a platform. Sorry, my brother is calling me. Thanks Thanks for providing a platform to discuss UTSA football. We're all passionate fans and supporters. At the end of the day, we all want the program to do well. Absolutely. I think some of the divisiveness that comes in on Twitter, everybody wants to pick a side. People taking people's opinions personal. Relax. Relax. Let people fan the way they fan, and it is what it is. I love the QB fundraiser idea, but I believe we can be more creative. I attended a Sam Smith fundraiser, and they did a live matching thing. It was powerful, inspirational, and effective. Yeah, I mean, yeah, please be more creative than what my mind has. I'm not very creative when it comes to that type of stuff. But yeah, like something, right? We need to do something because I, yeah, it's a priority for our team. People can be upset at that, and like, you know, yeah, people can be upset with that, but at the end of the day, it's a priority for our team, and that's a fact. And our coach is not like. Also, people have to realize as well, our coach has also been very vocal about wanting to bring in a quarterback from the transfer portal. So yeah, like we should focus and align our efforts on that 100%. 100%. Robert says, thank you, Darian. Enjoy the show. I appreciate you guys for being here. Hey, smash that like button while you are here. I gotta get better at that, guys. Y'all gotta hold me accountable. If you're here, smash the like button. I'd appreciate it. Adrian says, so you think losing is a tough love moment the fans could embrace? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Do you think losing is a tough love moment the fans could embrace? Losses happen, but I know it depends on how you play. Yeah, I think here's the thing. Like every time UTSA loses a game, this isn't the reaction. This wasn't the. I don't think this was the reaction to games we lost last year. I know people were upset. Sometimes we played bad, but like in my opinion, the difference this year is the way we're playing. Like that's why it hits different because it's just not what we've been accustomed to over the last, like, separate of the wins and losses, the product is not meeting the standard. You know, like I don't even feel like, just being honest here, what based on what I've seen from our offense, I don't feel confident that we're going to be able to go in and win games. You know, like I don't know if we have the reason why I went so hard last week about like I've seen enough of McCown or whatever. Like I would like to see a switch at the quarterback. My reasoning for that had nothing to do with. And I said that multiple times. This is not a personal attack or anything like that. It is just a fact of how I'm feeling about what I'm seeing in the product, and he's a key cog to that product. So when I see us miss throws, not miss this consistently, I obviously get worried, and then other people look at it, and what's happened is we've got disgruntled at like, hey, we can't even give up. We're not even giving ourselves a chance here. That's a different ball game to where like we're executing, we're doing well, we're doing good, but the other team just beat us, right? Like we're going to absorb those losses very, very differently. One of them is like, that's unfortunate. We just got unlucky. This was close, so on and so forth. But like what we've been seeing is just like, dude, we don't have a chance. We don't have a chance playing like this. We're jumping off sides every other play. We're missing wide open receivers. We're dropping balls that's hitting people right in the face, in their hands, in their chests, right in the breadbasket. Like us doing some of these undisciplined things. And we've done. Listen, to be fair, like I know I'm a defensive guy, and I've sort of I've let the defense off the hook. But even some of their tackling in the secondary, somebody had a comment earlier about, hey, we're letting guys get behind us and we're letting guys get over the top. That stuff is unacceptable too, right? But yeah, like some of the things that we're seeing, we're just not used to seeing. It ain't got like the wins and losses, like Coach Traylor has talked about it. We've started bad before. We've started off with losses before whenever we had all the big name guys, right? That part of it isn't new. To me, the product looks well under the standard that you would expect from a team like ours, a Coach Traylor led team, and when you consider the amount of talent we have, when you think about the amount of talent we have, and then you see the product we're putting on the field, more specifically on offense, that's when you scratch your head and you're like, bro, what is going on? So anyway, it's a tough love moment, but like I'm telling you, sometimes, and like I'm not a big like moral victory person. I don't believe in those, to be real. But like I have had to look at some of this stuff from a different lens after I've left the game myself, because like for example, I'm like I said, I'm watching these games every week. I'm hoping UTSA wins. And I'm like, you know what? I would much rather us have played a very good game so I can feel good about us going into Rice next week. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather feel that way. But like what's sad about that is even against a team like Rice that I think we should beat probably. I haven't watched all their games, but I do think we should beat Rice. I'm scared genuinely because of what we've put out on the field in the first 5 games. I'm nervous about it. I'm nervous about it. Um, and I don't think that's a team we should be that worried about. But I tell you this, I'm very worried because I'm worried if we do drop that game, what's gonna happen? What's gonna be the fallout after that? You know. So anyway, I know I went on a little rant there, but the product has been so beneath what we've been used to that it's very tough for us as supporters of the program that's been watching every single game for years. It's tough for us to accept that. Mike says quarters for quarterbacks, NIL fundraising idea. Half the money raised can potentially be used for charity. I'm with all the ideas. Let's figure out the ideas and ship them things over to Brad and whoever, Campos and whoever. We can make that happen for sure. 100% agree. David says agree as well. Play better and we'll react to losses more positively. Right. Like that's the thing. It's like, and they're not playing for our reaction, but um, I actually think some of the folks who are supporters also, because there are some people who are going to like absorb and watch their sports the way in which they want to watch it, and they're going to be pro everything in their team regardless. And anything you say, if you are critical of the team, they're going to have a knee jerk reaction to that to any criticism, which sometimes like for example, some people watch the game and react to everything with orange tinted glasses. And what I mean by that is orange tinted glasses, meaning like UTSA, they're going to see everything through UTSA's lens for on a positive note and maybe not realize like, yeah, some of this stuff is bad. And what some of us are reacting to is the products. The products. Will Henderson saying not playing to win. Honestly, I know that's like an overgeneralization. That's like a general comment. I see how you can feel that way sometimes. I don't. I think like for example, against ECU, I think our defense was certainly playing to win, and I think our offense was playing to win. But based on some of the stuff we saw, I can't dispute that. I can't dispute somebody having that thought. You know, it's like shoot, we were down 2 possessions. We were down 2 possessions. Then Brandon Hot breaks the long run, right? And then we're down 1 possession. And then we get an interception that following drive, and we get the ball around the red zone for our offense to start. And then defense, we didn't score, and then multiple 3-and-outs from our defense. They still gave us an opportunity to get back in the game. And our offense was going 3-and-out half the time, you know? Like, so yeah, the not playing to win comment, I can't even disagree. It's Rab says we also need good hands. Clark and Amador would have caught those 3 balls dropped by McCoy. McCoy seems to be McCown's safety blanket wide receiver. That's all you need to know about the state of the offense right now. Yeah, they like McCoy. And I understand why they like him though. Like he has made some tough catches. He is a deep threat. He has done some good things. The drops are not great though. They just aren't. This is not me. Once again, this is not me having a personal attack. I am just calling it like it is. You can't drop the football that much. And these are really big drops. Those 3 drops were pivotal. And those are things that I was alluding to earlier. Those are things we can't blame on the OC. We can't blame that on Burke. That's not Burke's fault. Those passes hit him right in the chest, Can't blame Burke for those, and the one that Coach Traylor is really a thorn in his side against Texas State. That back shoulder deep ball that McCown threw, that was as good as a ball as you can get in that position, and we dropped it. And I understand their disappointment with those because we've seen him make tough catches as well. So Clark should definitely alleviate some of that because if he's getting some of those passes, he's not going to drop those. He's not going to drop those. So, yeah, hopefully we clean up the execution between our skilled players, and I think things will go well. We need a confidence game in the conference. I definitely think this Rice situation can be that, but it all depends on what they decide to work on over this bye week, and then next week going into Rice. It's going to depend there on I don't know. If we can clean some things up, I don't think we're far off, but we're going to need some of the real important guys to step up and get it together. Quarterback position, wide receivers, just skilled players in general on offense. I think they got to step it up. Defense, we got to tackle better. Once someone catches the ball, our we give up so many yak yards. It's crazy. Like I don't get it. Yards after the catch, it's insane. Every time someone catches the ball with space, I have no confidence that we're going to tackle them at this point. So we got to be better with that too. The defense, like I said, the defense have not been perfect at all. Although I think they've shown a little bit more promise than our offense. Our defense needs to get it together as well. And it's going to take a collective effort from everybody, to be completely honest. Jabari says, "What's up?" Shout out to Jabari Jones. It's Rap says, not ready to be a clutch player yet, but maybe next year. Yeah, and listen, to Coach Traylor's point, a lot of these guys are young, man. Like a lot of them are young. So they're gonna have growing pains. They're gonna be there. A lot of these guys are this is their first time getting like a lot of experience and coming in and being a guy and having expectations built into what they do. He did play last year a bit, not like he is now. He's like a focal point of the offense now. But yeah, I mean, he's in some of these positions for the first time where he has all this pressure on him. And, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but hopefully he hangs in there. He cleans it up because he's a guy that they clearly like. And he does have some talent and ability, but consistency is going to be what makes him, breaks him, honestly. Extreme says you point out that we basically haven't been the FBS team is a huge reality check. I never thought we would be one of those teams. Count how long it will be since we won the FBS game. Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? It's one of the first thing I noticed. I can just tell you this in some of the group chats from some of the former players, and when I say former players, I mean some of the former players from like years ago, Coker, Wilson years, I'd say, mostly Coker years. It's been a big point of discussion. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I think a lot of us, I know people have been like on me about like you were eating the cheese before the season. I was. What like who has 3 consecutive seasons like we had and don't go into that 4th season, on a high horse, if you will. But yeah, that's one thing that I've been thinking about, and which is why I was excited about the ECU game. I was like, that's a tough team. We can beat them. Um, but yeah, I've been thinking about like we really haven't. I mean, technically, Kennesaw State's an FBS team, but do they have an FBS roster? No, and that is relatively concerning. It's concerning, and the fact that I'm glad East Carolina was close, um, but like you know, I think the Texas State that wasn't very close. Obviously, UT wasn't close, but wasn't expected to be. But yeah, I just like to see us perform better. I think Rice should be a game that we play well against. They struggle to score, except against Texas Southern. But they've been struggling to score against FCS teams all year or FBS teams all year. So we're sort of in the same position as Rice, which isn't great. But we'll see. We'll see how the game goes. I think I pretty much covered the main topics I wanted to. I didn't kind of go on my own uh wrath about a lot of them because you guys hit a lot of the topics I wanted to cover. I'm going to take off from doing a pod this weekend because there's no game, obviously, so there's no recap pod, but I will be back same time Wednesday to preview Rice. I'm going to take some time and watch all of Rice's games up until this point, and I'm going to post some stuff. I'll probably also post some member only content as well throughout this bye week. I know we don't have a ton of members, but if you'd like to be a member, go ahead and sign up. You can do that on the page. But I'm probably going to do some members only content and some smaller bits and pieces of content as we continue through the bye week. But anyway, like I said, if you are still here, smash a like on this video, and I will catch you guys next week. Enjoy the off week, and we'll get back to football in the week. Peace out, y'all.